This week on the Analog Circle podcast, it may not be much, but we do get some new info on Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield. It's small news, so don't get too excited about it. It's not bad though. BioWare, now this is one you should get hyped for. BioWare celebrates N7 Day with some awesome news. I can't wait to get into that a little later on in the show. Let's see. We get confirmation on if Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is coming to the PlayStation 4. A lot of people have been wondering, so many games have been between the PS5 and PS4. Will Rift Apart be the same? We're going to get into that in a little bit. And Target will have PlayStation 5s available on launch day to buy, but there is a catch. We're going to talk about what that catch is. And Stadia is finally getting a long overdue new feature. All of these stories can be found here and a lot more in episode 151 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Keon Mitchell, and I truly want to say welcome to the show and thank you, the listener out there, for coming in here to spend a little bit of time with me to go over this gaming culture that we all love so much. Now, you, the listener, I want to let you guys know something. We have a show that is recorded on Wednesday called Listener Feedback, where it is a show dedicated to you. So if you, the listener listening right now, want to be a part of that, where you can share any of your thoughts, any of your opinions, anything that you would like to have be played on the show, you can do it two different ways. Either you can call in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard. Or you can email the show. That finally worked this time. You can email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Now, I must say this before we get into that nice, great news this week. I want to let you guys know what I've been playing, and I'm going to make this quick. It has been DMC5. That game continues to look fantastic. I mean, that RE engine is really clicking on a lot of cylinders. I have been enjoying the game. Gameplay continues to be great. The story is very, very interesting. The character development, I like what they're doing so far. I'm still pretty early into the game, so I can't really talk about the meat and potatoes of it so much right now. But the way that the story is going and the gameplay and everything, that's the way it's being set up, I have been thoroughly enjoying that game. Shout out to Capcom. I just love the way the characters control, and gameplay is a lot of fun. So I don't want to harp on that too much more, because that's all I've been playing this week. So like I alluded to just a minute ago, guys, let's go ahead and get into what we all come here for, and that is for the gaming news that went down. Let's go ahead and get things started. What do we got right here? Similar, man, I messed up right there. Similar to last week, let's get started with some PlayStation news. So since we got the word that Spider-Man Miles Morales, Horizon Forbidden West, and to a lesser extent, Bug Snacks, oh yeah, I'm reaching with that one, would all be releasing not only on PlayStation 5, but also PlayStation 4. Many have wondered, what about Ratchet and Clank? Well, over on Twitter, a user named MCDC Sidharth asked, and I quote, at Insomniac Games, "Hey guys, I'm not sure if you've already announced this, but I was curious. Will R and C Rift Apart be coming to PlayStation 4 as well, or just the PS5? End of quote. Now, Insomniac's response was, and I quote, and it's plain and simple, it's a PS5 exclusive. End of quote. So we can finally put to bed all of the question marks, all of the, is Insomniac gonna be bringing this over to the PlayStation 4 as well? If that's the case, I don't need the PS5. All of that has been put to bed, put the sheet over, it's done. It is a PS5 exclusive, and I, for one, am very, very, very happy. And the thing is, I don't know if it would have run on the PS4. That SSD is really putting in a lot of work with that game. I mean, actually going into whole other dimensions in a matter of like 1 second, almost instantaneous. I mean, the game looks incredible. It looks like a Pixar movie. Man, shucks. I tell y'all, honestly, that is like the number. It might not be the number one game, but it's somewhere between second and third of most anticipated games that I'm looking forward to in this first year of PlayStation 5's life. I mean, that game, I tell you, I didn't become a fan of Ratchet and Clank until this generation. Playing that, I don't know, I guess it was a reboot, as it were, Ratchet and Clank on the PS4. I said, God, dog, that was a perfect 10. I might have gave it a 9. That game was so amazing that it made me a fan. From that point on, I have been waiting for Ratchet and Clank. You guys know this. I've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. I'm starting to talk about it ad nauseum now, of how much of a fan of the franchise I am. So I'm going to just sum it up with this, because I don't want to get long-winded. Yes, it is a PS5 exclusive. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Let's go ahead and get into the next. Oh, wait a minute, wait. Before we get into the next story, I do want to give you guys just a bit of a heads up, a bit of a beware out there. Insomniac, speaking of them, Ratchet and Clank, Insomniac, the community director, James Stevenson, has put out a spoiler warning for Spider-Man Miles Morales, warning people to tread carefully because early copies of the game, as we all know, are out there, and you might want to just watch where you go as far as not having any of the game be spoiled for you. By the way, that game looks so good. Did you guys see the Digital Foundry breakdown of that game? Man, that game is looking next gen. I know I can get it on a PS4, but I'm not even going to do that to myself, man. I'm going to wait till I get the PS5, and I'm going to play it the way that it was intended to be played. Man, that game looks awesome. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's switch to some, well, we're still there, still PlayStation related, but let's talk about some more PlayStation 5 news. More so being able to add storage space to the PlayStation 5. Woo! Well, according to The Verge, the slot that can theoretically fit standard stick-shaped M.2 SSDs will be disabled out the box. Now, here is the direct quote from Sony. They said, "This is reserved for a future update." End of quote. So on day one, you will not be able to buy extra storage, which means that SSD that we heard about earlier, might not want to pick that up. You might want to stay away from that until Sony gives the okay that it is compatible. So this is a bit of a bummer, I must say, for some people that want to get that storage out the gate, want to make sure that the games that they plan on buying, they will all fit on the hard drive and they won't have to delete some off just to add some on. Now, Sony did not give a time when they will have these drives ready to be installed into your console. Now, we gotta give Sony a little bit of credit here because Mark Cerny, I believe back at the Game Developers Conference, he did say that it was a possibility that they might not be ready at launch. He had alluded to that, and I mean, that's still no excuse. It should be ready. Unfortunately, it's not. But the only reason, well, outside of the obvious, but the other reason why I was bringing up this story is because we had heard maybe about 2 or 3 episodes ago that it was a hard drive at Best Buy. It was a 500 gig. I think I said it was what? It was like $115 was on the price tag. Man, hold off. If you see something, just wait. Matter of fact, Sony is also doing something that's very, very, I would say, very smart here. Because even if you do buy a hard drive that's not compatible, they already said that it's disabled until the future update does come out to make it active. So you gotta give Sony some credit here because at least they are making it so if you do put a SSD in the PS5 that's not supposed to be in there, at least it won't go off the rails and poof, blow up in smoke or something just happens and goes wrong. Because I believe with those disk drives, they were saying that they need to breathe. It's a name that they were talking about that the SSD is going to need in order for it to be able to stay cool. But these drives, they don't have that. So you could have probably overheated your console, as it were, if Sony didn't take these precautions. And how crazy would that be? Because you know somebody out there was waiting to do something like this. Oh, man, this looks like it'll work. Yep, looks like the same specs. I'm buying it and putting it in the PS5. Soon as they put it in and it overheats, and Sony says, well, that kind of goes against your warranty. I don't think we can cover that. It's gonna be pandemonium. So shout out to Sony for getting ahead of this, disabling the drive so that nobody can put anything inside of it until they are ready. You just gotta hold off. Hopefully this doesn't last long. I'm hoping Sony will have this together hopefully before the end of the year or early into next year. So we'll have to keep our hand on a pulse with this one and see what happens. Anyway, matter of fact, I want to shout out Jeff Texas for this as well. Jeff sent me this in the Analog Circle Facebook group. Go over there. Hey, man, matter of fact, I don't even really talk about that too much. Go over to Facebook and join the group. That's right. Just type in the Analog Circle and it's right there on Facebook. So shout out to you, Jeff Texas. Appreciated this one, brother. Now let's go ahead and get into the next story. So speaking of next generation, Best Buy, via the company's blog, has announced that customers will not be able to purchase the PlayStation 5, the Series X or S in the store until next year. So no camping out in front of the store this year. Best Buy is suggesting that you keep an eye on BestBuy.com, where you can choose to have it shipped to your home, pick it up inside the store, which I believe you have to schedule a time for that, or you can pick it up at the contactless curbside. Once again, another thing that made next-gen consoles, the launch is so amazing, and it just the, what do you call it, man? Just anticipation level go up like 1 or 2 notches, waiting outside the store, camping out, people talking, having good times, and, you know, just talking about what they're gonna play, all for this gaming culture. unfortunately, doggone, won't be getting that, man. And it makes sense. It's good on Best Buy to do that because we need to try to do as much as we can as well to keep this COVID-19 thing down from, spreading crazily. I mean, here in Maryland, the numbers have just spiked again. So, they said it's supposed to get a little worse during like the winter months. So hopefully, everybody can do their part to try and keep it down as far as the COVID situation. I'm only laughing because one sub said he's always saying wash your hands and your butt. So yeah, man, keep washing your hands, man. Do what you got to do. Anyway, Best Buy, you won't be able to camp out. Get it online. Keep your eyes on bestbuy.com. That'll be the best way to be able to pick it up inside the store, set up the time. Y'all already heard the story. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the next story. So let's talk a little about Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick, because during the company's Q2 earnings report phone call, looks like we have seen, he said, it looks like we have seen an acceleration in M&A, or merger and acquisitions, activity. He says, obviously, Microsoft is acquiring Bethesda, for example, which is significant. I believe $7 some odd billion transaction. So I think you're going to continue to see increased M&A activity just because of the heat around the category and the amount of capital that's being deployed by big companies to pursue it. Now, Zelnick also said that Take-Two is sitting on $2.4 billion in cash, and they're anxious to build their business aggressively and will use their cash to acquire. Now, this is crazy timing. He says that they will use their cash to acquire companies when they're strategically cognizant and when those deals are accretive. And this article from WCCF Tech also mentioned that Take-Two suggested back in September, that Microsoft would be acquiring other studios. Now, this is interesting because it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong here, and I might be a little off on their name, but it was an article that I read. It might have been sent to me by AB. I'm not sure, but I think they're in talks with acquiring Codemasters, if I'm getting the name correct, which is something else. Now, it is $2.4 billion in cash these guys have. And he was talking about acquisitions. This is about to be the new wave. And them just talking about Microsoft getting another acquisition back in September, and in October they pick one up, and now they're trying to go after Codemasters. This just solidifies that these guys, not just Microsoft and Sony, but we're talking about EA, Ubisoft. I mean, who's bigger than Take-Two out of the bunch? Square Enix. These guys are going to all be looking for talent. So it's like at this point in the game, you can't just keep your eye on what Sony or Microsoft or what Nintendo, even though we haven't really heard much from Nintendo lately, but I'm sure they're out there trying to get something together, I would imagine. But you can't just keep your eyes on the big three, but these other companies across the board as well. How many new studios and acquisitions could these guys get? I mean, this upcoming generation, it's already being proven that it's going to come down to who has the most content. Game Pass, they are going to have to keep a endless flow of doggone entertainment in that service in order to keep people coming back. They're going to have to keep it going. So the best way to do that is get acquisition after acquisition after acquisition, but just make sure the acquisitions that you are getting are good ones and can provide the best entertainment possible. This is going to be interesting. How many of y'all think that these third parties are going to pick up different talent? And if so, do you think it's going to be on a big scale, medium scale, or a small scale? Because I would say that, like I said, if I'm remembering correctly, if Take-Two is trying to get Codemasters, I would say that's at least a medium-sized studio, a medium-sized acquisition if that happens. And I'm just interested to see what continues to happen as the weeks, months, and years start to flow, because once again, content is king. Let's go ahead and move into, well, this is just a quick news story. On the Xbox Series S, Ori and the Will of the Wisp will run in 2 different modes. It'll run at 1080p, 120 frames per second, or listen to this now, this is very, very interesting, or it will run at 4K, 60 frames per second. Now, I only brought this up because over the last week or so, we have been hearing that the Xbox Series S might be a bit of a sham. It might not be what Microsoft said that it was going to be. And this right here, I mean, look, 1080p, I get it. People want 4K, I understand. But for $300, 1080p at 120 frames per second, that's impressive, man. If you have seen Ori and the Will of the Wisp, you know that this is not just a run-of-the-mill, decent, okay looking game. This game is beautiful. And just the fact that, okay, it might not be 1440p at the 120 frames per second, it's dropped to 1080p, but it is going to be running the game at 4K, 60 frames per second. It was some arguments going on that was saying that the Xbox Series S could not do 4K. It would top out at 1080p. It wasn't even doing 1440p. So here we have some confirmation. Now, once again, hey, I definitely want to put this caveat out there. Once Digital Foundry gets their hands on it, oh man, David Ledbetter, God dog. I don't know what the results are going to be when they get their hands on it, but as it stands right now, at this very second, it will run the game at 4K at 60 frames per second. Now, is that gonna be native 4K, or is that gonna be what do you call it? It's native and then it's dynamic 4K. I don't know. That makes me think about something, huh? Anyway, we'll have to see if it's true or not. I think I'm going to use that this week. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the next story. So let's talk about, oh man, this is awesome to me. Let's talk about BioWare, because N7 Day was celebrated yesterday and we got some amazing, awesome news. Now on Twitter, BioWare said, and I quote, oh man, they said this. They said, your choices, your squad, your shepherd. Relive the legend in a remastered edition of the highly acclaimed trilogy. Mass Effect Legendary Edition arrives spring 2021. It will release for Xbox One, PS4. And before I go into the rest, I just must say, God dog it, I was hoping that the reports that we were going over were true, and it is. They are releasing the doggone, oh my goodness, the remastered edition of Mass Effect Legendary Edition Spring 2021. I couldn't believe it. I was saying, man, it looks like it could be true, but you can't believe everything. But yes, they held this one out until what a time to talk about it. N7. I didn't even see that coming. I never thought about it. Once I didn't see it during the E3 EA press conference, I said, man, I guess it isn't true. That really hurt, but this is awesome. It makes sense. I guess they wanted to announce it when it's a little closer to spring, even though we're still a ways off. But that wasn't the only news we got. Hudson, he did say that the Series X and PlayStation 5 will have targeted enhancements. Now, what are those targeted enhancements gonna be? He did not say. I mean, could it be a native 4K? Could it be 60 frames per second? I mean, of course, we know that they're both gonna have faster load times. And, I mean, who knows? But this isn't the only news that we got. The craziest news, I would say, is on top of this announcement, Hudson, he also revealed that a new Mass Effect is in the works. This is the quote. A veteran team, this is Hudson's quote, by the way, a veteran team has been hard at work envisioning the next chapter of the Mass Effect universe. We are in early stages of the project and can't say any more just yet, but we're looking forward to sharing our vision for where we'll be going next. End of quote. So they are working on a new Mass Effect. Now, the key thing here that got me excited is he said a veteran team is working on this new Mass Effect. My goodness. I'm telling you, I understand that for some people, Andromeda dropped the ball. I respect the opinion and I get it. So here could possibly be the redemption of doggone Mass Effect with a veteran team, Casey Hudson. Oh my goodness, that was another thing I did not see coming, because we had heard over at EA they were putting Mass Effect on ice for sounded like years. It was going to be on a hiatus and they were going to be concentrating on other IPs. But that is not the case. Now, who knows when it's going to release? Who knows how much they've gotten into it? Well, he said it. He said that they're in early development. It's very early on, but just the fact, well, to quote them, early stages, but just the thing that they're working on it with the veteran team, that gives me a lot of hope. Where are they gonna go with it? I mean, which way? Up, down, left, right? I'm about to do the Contra code out here, god dog it, good grief. It's just, it really, really made me very happy to hear that not only were the rumors true about the trilogy, about the remastered trilogy, but just throwing a completely brand new set of a situation, a new Mass Effect game being developed as well. God dog, man. I am so happy to hear this, man. I was such a huge Mass Effect fan. Oh, by the way, the remaster, the trilogy, it is a trilogy, the Legendary Edition, is gonna include all three Mass Effects, and it's gonna have all of the DLC right there as well. I'm just so happy about this, man. Because, like I said, I'm not going to sound like a broken record, but man, shout out to BioWare. I believe you guys can get this thing on track. I believe that they'll be able to revive the franchise, as it were. It went into some hands that were a little shaky, I get it, but this is the chance. I believe that we can get a great Mass Effect. And if we can get one brand new great Mass Effect, you know that EA will let those guys do another trilogy. Now, will that next trilogy be as great as the Shepard one? We will have to wait and see. Anyway, I don't want to harp on this too much longer, but I'm so pumped up to hear that spring 2021, we will be getting that remastered trilogy of Mass Effect. Anyway, let's go ahead and move into the next story. So if you're trying to get your hand, this is, I don't know why I didn't include this with the Best Buy store. Anyway, I'm going to read it off anyway. So if you're trying to get your hands on a PlayStation 5 on launch day, Target has let it be known that they will have consoles available. Now, the caveat to this is you will have to order it online. Now, Target said everyone, this is their quote, everyone is so excited on the day of launch. The console will only be available in stores with order pickup or drive up orders. After the launch day, orders after the launch day. So you'll only be able to pick up and get drive up orders after launch day. Now, they said you may be able to purchase directly in stores if the product is still available. But Walmart, I completely butchered that. Wait a minute. Okay, so they were let me read this again. Down. Yeah, the caveat is you will have to order it online. Yeah, you just got to order it online. You can't go to the store. You got to get it online. So that's the only thing. They're going to have some available on launch day, but man, you better have your keyboard ready. What is it? They press F5, I think, to restart the page. So, I mean, this thing is going to get swarmed by millions of people at one time. The mad mother that wants to get her son the joint, shoot, the angry adult like me that wants to get one is going to be hitting that button, that F5 button, trying to reset the page. So make sure as soon as they go live. Now, that's the only problem. They did not give a live date. Well, not a live date, but a live time when they will be available. So, I mean, hey, man, just when does it release? The 13th, I believe, the PlayStation 5 comes out. Might be a little wrong on that, but whatever that launch day is, make sure that you are there early. I would even recommend Shugs, man. You might want to get there at midnight onto the webpage and see what you can do. But also, I wanted to let you guys know this too. Now, if Target gives you a bit of a hard time, you can't quite figure out that time or whatever, or you might strike out. It's very, very possible. Walmart has also said that they will have PlayStation 5s on launch day. Now, here is the tweet from Walmart. They said, and I quote, "The day you've all been waiting for is almost here. The hashtag PS5 is coming 11/12 for online orders only." Okay, so it's releasing the 12th. I was a day off. My bad. He says, only if you missed out on pre-orders, you'll have 4 chances to order throughout the day. So for them, this is if you strike out at Target, Walmart, they have a much better structure here. So these times are based off of Eastern Standard Time. So you'll be able to go on their website at 12 p.m. and try. See if you can get one. If you can't get one at 12 p.m., you can go back on at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you strike out at 3 p.m., hit that F5 button. I'm hoping I'm telling y'all the right button. I've never done it, so I might have the wrong button. But just hit that button. It resets the page. If you struck out at 3, you'll have 6 p.m. to try it again. Eastern Standard Time again. And if you strike out at 6 p.m., you'll have 9 p.m. to try one last time. So I like this, man. Why didn't anybody else do it like this? They're giving you 4 chances to try and do it. Now, how long the window lasts, they did not specify. I'm taking it that from 12 p.m. if they got 50 PS5s in, from 12 p.m. to whatever time it takes for those to sell out, they'll sell out. And then from 3 p.m., they'll sell the next 50. That's how I'm taking it. I guess it's just going to be broken up into increments and the time will last as long as the supply lasts. But once again, just mark those times down. Jump on at 12, jump on at 3, 6, and 9. So in 3-hour increments, and try your hand. Good luck to you guys. Let's go ahead and move back into some more Sony news. Now, this is actually some Sony Bend news. Sony Bend has announced that Days Gone will run in dynamic 4K and up to 60 frames per second on PlayStation 5 via backwards compatibility. Now, Sony Bend also clarified that save transfers from PS4 to PS5 will also be an option. Now, another cool thing about this, think about this. The interesting thing about Days Gone is even if you don't own the game, it'll still be available in the PlayStation Plus collection, so you'll be able to play the game with the enhancements either way, as long as you are a PSN subscriber. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, and I gotta agree, as a person that has Days Gone, that has played it, that has gotten a bit of a ways into the game, but have not beaten it yet, I think this game will be awesome at 60 frames per second. I mean, a lot of people out there, not a lot, I'm not going to say a lot, but there were some people on certain podcasts that said that if Days Gone was running at 60 frames per second, it would be a lot smoother of an experience and they would have probably enjoyed it more. So here it is. 60 frames per second up to 4K resolution. Now, another thing I want to say, just on a side note, The Last Guardian, God dog, for any of you guys that have been listening to the podcast for a couple years, you guys know The Last Guardian, my goodness, that game gave me the biggest headache when it came down to the controls. It was a good game, but it was a frustrating game at times, where some of the things you had to... Anyway, I don't want to go on a doggone rant here. Listen, the point that I was trying to make is The Last of Us, it actually runs at 60 frames per second as well on the PlayStation 5 via backwards compatibility, but it is a bit of a catch when it comes to running The Last Guardian at 60 frames per second. You will need the physical disc in order to make that happen. Now, they didn't specify what the frame rate would be on the digital copy of the game, but they did say, once again, if you want that tip-top performance, you will need the physical disc. Now, I do want to mention something real quick. I can't even say real quick. Did any of you, speaking of this backwards compatibility, did any of you game players out there see that doggone Digital Foundry video talking about the PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility? Oh my goodness, were you guys just as shocked as me that some of those games were running at a solid 60 frames per second? No drops. No drops. It was even at one point in time, I can't remember what game it was, pardon me, I can't. But at one point, they were showing one game that was on the Xbox Series X that was backwards compatible, and they were comparing it to the PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility. Man, the X was dropping. It was fluctuating up and down from 60 to 54 to 53 to 57 when the PlayStation 5 version of that game stayed at a rock solid 60 frames per second. I could not believe the doggone performance. I mean, here it is. Mark Cerny, he was talking about, we're going to patch in 100, PlayStation 5 games. And then all of a sudden that number went up, just crazy. I mean, it went up way up to like thousands of PlayStation 4 games being compatible, backwards compatible, but they never really sold it too much. It seemed like it was maybe like a second thought, kind of like, man, we just going to do this to just shut the people up and have them just know that, okay, we have it. We're not going to put a lot of time in it, but we have it. And here you're getting these kind of results. That was absolutely incredible to me. That they undersold. AB was telling me this. They undersold and they undersold and they over-delivered when it came to that feature. I sat there looking at my phone because I wasn't home when I saw the Digital Foundry, the backwards compatible video. I was sitting there and I was just in amazement. Like, wow, they really pulled off 60 frames per second. Now, I do think that the situation, it had to do with something like the One X, because of the resolution, because they started talking about the resolution, and even on some of the games, the resolution was even better on the PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility versus the Xboxes. But I believe they were saying in so many words, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that the Series X's version was tethered to how well or what the max resolution was on the One X. They were kind of tethered together, so they couldn't, the Series X couldn't make it look better than what it was. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I got out of that. But man, shout out to Sony. God dog, y'all really did y'all thing on that backwards compatibility. That thing looked real rock solid. Anyway, I think I have went on long enough about this. Let's go ahead and let's jump into let's talk about Stadia for a minute. Now, Stadia is finally getting the family sharing feature. I believe they talked about this like at the beginning, like during the launch, or a couple of weeks before the launch. Well, when they were talking about the features of what the Stadia was going to have, they were talking about the family sharing feature. Well, now it is here. Now, this will allow anyone in a Google family group to share Stadia games with one another, regardless of who originally bought it or is currently a Stadia Pro subscriber. Now, the family group can be made up of up to 6 people, and the people in the group can decide which of their games to share. And as long as nobody is playing it at the same time, it will be available to anyone in the group. So I think this is good, man. I mean, we have not been hearing a lot about Stadia. I think Stadia has actually made it a year. I think this month will mark Stadia's 1-year anniversary. And I remembered this was a couple of months ago, I think. I was asking you guys, did you think Stadia would make it? Well, no, I said until next year. So that's yet to be seen. They got a year under their belt. But you don't really hear too much about Stadia, even to this day. I mean, I think this is a good plan. I mean, allowing up to 6 people to be a part of this group and everybody being able to share their games from one another, as long as nobody is playing the same game that you're playing, you're able to share that. That's a good feature. It's not bad. I just don't know if that many people are on Stadia. Somebody let me know. Are any of you listeners out there actually playing on Stadia? And what are your thoughts if you are? I would love to get your opinion because I know nobody that plays on Stadia. So please, if you have an experience, write in and let us all know. I am very interested in that. And if you are a player of Stadia, will you be doing this family group plan? Just curious, just throwing out questions. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the next story. So, with this next story, now it's nothing close. I mean, not even close. I don't want to oversell this at all. It is not anything earth shattering. It's nothing amazing or crazy. But when you find out any concrete information about Elder Scrolls 6, it's kind of worth talking about. So Todd Howard, he revealed in a blog post that the new console cycle has, quote, led to our largest engine overhaul since Oblivion, with all new technologies empowering our first new IP in 25 years, Starfield, as well as the Elder Scrolls 6. Now, maybe I should have said this is going to cover Starfield and Elder Scrolls Elder Scrolls 6, because it will. But let me continue. So, that was the end of the quote. So, outside of a new engine, it was also revealed that both games will be utilizing procedural generation in a big way. Now, Howard also mentioned in a TechRadar.com article, in the TechRadar article.com, TechRadar.com article, God dog, that Elder Scrolls 6 would release after Starfield does. So that gives us an idea. I don't even give a real idea. First off, let me start from the beginning. These guys have started on a new engine. They have a new engine for Elder Scrolls 6 and doggone Starfield. That's fantastic. The two games are going to be procedurally generated, which I think I read that's not necessarily a new technique. I think they had to tone it down, but with these new next-gen consoles, I'm sure they'll have all of the power that they need to make any changes and be able to adapt the game to really take full control over the procedural generation. And I think that's interesting. Like I said, it's not a lot. These are like little baby crumbs of morsels, man. It's not much here, but it is nice to know that at least they're talking about it got a new engine, is procedurally generated, and that until we see Starfield release, we should not be expecting anything, and I mean nothing, coming out of Elder Scrolls 6. So, at least we got the order of how these games are going to be released. And we'll have to see what happens, because these are both highly anticipated games. Matter of fact, thinking about an article that I read. Now, once again, man, my memory is terrible, so I'm not going to remember it verbatim. But it was an article that said that the release date of Starfield might have leaked, and that person was saying that it lined up to be 2021, next year. So could Starfield be a lot closer than we're expecting? 2021 is only a month and some change away from where we are now. So is it a possibility that by September we get E3 next year? Hopefully everybody is back in the building. I can dream. God dog it. Shout out to you, Daddy. I can dream that everybody will be back at E3. Could it? How crazy would it be? Now, once again, this is a rumor. I understand it's a rumor. 2021, that we're going to have Starfield. It's going to be released. Nobody knows, but let's just play what if for a minute. Next year at E3, Because this is the crazy thing. Bethesda does not have their own E3 anymore. They are under the Microsoft's umbrella. So here it is. Todd Howard, he gets up on stage. I know you guys have been wondering what's going on with Starfield. You know, he puts on his nice little spiel, gets the crowd excited, gets us hype, and all of a sudden he says, here it is right now. And then the voice comes on, world premiere. Y'all know how this stuff goes. And all of a sudden, we finally get a chance to see Starfield on the screen. It looks amazing. It looks luxurious. It looks like it's a huge world to just explore. And then he goes back on stage and he says, you guys liked it, huh? You guys liked it? I bet you want to know when it releases. Of course, everybody's going to go crazy. Yeah, we want to know. And then he says, November 17th, 2021. Man, that would be a moment. Now, once again, this is all what if. We don't know if that rumor is true. Well, it's a rumor, so of course it's not true, but we don't know if that rumor is accurate, that next year it's going to happen. Either way, Starfield, I can't wait to see more on this. Elder Scrolls 6. It's Elder Scroll, man. It's a huge IP, especially running with these next-gen consoles. I'm just excited, man. We're just going to have to keep our hand on the pulse of the situation. But, yeah, man, let's go ahead and let's move into the next story. Now, this is a interesting one because let's talk about Xbox. Now, according to a new report from Bloomberg, and we all know Bloomberg has been pretty accurate. They don't get it all right, but they get a lot of things right. So this is according to Bloomberg. Microsoft is over in Japan trying to make some acquisitions from from small to big, end of quote, indicating that they have been approached. No. Let me read this a little better. It was indicated that they had been approached, some of these smaller companies, by Microsoft about buying their businesses, but the companies asked to not be identified as the talks were private. So we have heard for quite some time that Microsoft has been trying to get their stable up. Different Japanese studios. It was at one point in time, Sega was being talked about. Now, interesting thing about Sega, y'all. Now, once again, memory is a little fuzzy, but Sega is, they're trying to make like 600 and something plus people retire. Like all at once. They were talking about they were selling off their arcades or something like that. Something very just out of left field is happening with Sega right now. Now, I'm not saying at all that Microsoft is about to acquire Sega, but what I am saying is things are looking a little strange over there. And then we hear this report from Bloomberg that they are over there in Japan, and these companies actually saying, yes, they have approached us about being bought, about being acquired, but please don't mention our names because we don't want to get in trouble. These were private conversations. We don't need Microsoft coming back to us and word getting out that they were looking at this person. Well, not this person, but this company, that developer. So it looks like Microsoft is still on the hunt. Once again, going back to the CEO of Take-Two, Strauss, him talking about that this is getting ready to be a new trend. He sees it happening. This is just more fuel to the fire, that this is the trend. So what possible Japan or Japanese studio could Microsoft get? Do you guys still think it's Sega? There's so many of them. Do you guys think it could be Capcom? If we're gonna shoot for Sega, we gotta shoot for Capcom, right? Good grief. We on the dream cloud right now. I mean, could Capcom be a possibility? I mean, it's like I said, they have, right here, the article, from small to big, they are trying to acquire. So size does not seem like it matters if it's a great fit. Matter of fact, the guy over there that works for Xbox over in the Asian market, now I forget his name, but he said in the article that if it's a good fit, it doesn't matter. Basically, it doesn't matter who it is. As long as they are a good fit with the company, then they will want to work with them and acquire them, have them working for them. So once again, who could it be? It's a lot of them out there, man. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. What's going on with Sega? I have no idea. You have From Software. You have man, I'm not gonna be able to remember them off the top. I just said Capcom, so we'll leave it there. But interesting information nonetheless from Bloomberg. Microsoft continues on their tirade of acquiring more studios. God dog. Let's go ahead and let's move into some quick news. And we're almost done here, guys. Okay, The Medium. Daggone. The Medium has been delayed, man, until January 28th, 2021 for Xbox Series S and X. And this right here, almost forgot. I'm glad I wrote this down. We got the reviews of the PlayStation 5 and the Series X this week. A lot of people love the PlayStation 5. They say it's a great next generation console. Of course, some people made some snarky comments on how big it is, but that's to be expected. That thing is the size of a spaceship. We all see it. But on the Xbox side, man, they said some great things about the Series X. One guy, I don't know if he was with VentureBeat or if he was with Games Radar. I'm not sure. I don't want to misquote who this guy is, what site he's from. But he even said it was like playing a high-end PC. He said it was a fantastic experience. Other guys that have got their hands on the console have said that they have loved it. It hasn't gotten bad reviews, but it's one thing that continues to plague the Xbox Series X's launch, and it is the lack of software. It has no games. It has none to show off the power of the Series X. That was the same point I heard from review after review after review, that it just doesn't have the software to show off what this console can do. Nobody said it was a bad console, but they need the games to show it off. And here it is. The Medium was a game that a lot of people were looking forward to. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I wasn't looking forward to it. I didn't think it looked that great, but that's just me. But people were out there saying this game is amazing. It looks awesome. The dual worlds at one time, I thought that was a dope feature. Can't cap on that. But it wasn't something I was looking forward to, but here it was, like I said, a small group, maybe not a small group, nice sized group of people were looking forward to the game, and it is delayed again. Last week we had talked about the other game that got delayed that was supposed to come out, and that was the other game I was looking forward to. Me personally, what was the name of the game? I can't even remember. It was the Cyberpunk kind of game. It had the isometric view to it. I ain't gonna remember it because my brain is scrambling right now for the answer. But yeah, it just continues to go with the theme of what's been happening with this lead up to the Series X's launch. And God dog, it's like, were they really depending on Halo Infinite that much that their lineup is this sparse? Anytime, man, I got offended this week, guys. I did. When I saw people actually re-reviewing games that were already reviewed. It was people out there that were re-reviewing Gears 5 for the Xbox Series X. I said, God dang, man, I have never seen such, I ain't never seen up like this before in my gaming life, where for a next generation console, you are reviewing games that have already been reviewed. I'm sitting there and I understand that some of these games, they got enhancements. I get it. 120 frames per second online for Gears 5. That's awesome, man. 60 frames per second as well. That's amazing. 4K resolution. You got it, man. It's great features, but it's at the core the same game. How are you gonna re-review a game that's already been reviewed? I just don't understand, man. But this is what people are dealing with on the Xbox's side. And say what you want about PlayStation 5, you might not like it, you might not like the controller, you think it's too big, it looks like the size of a smaller person's whole body. You can say all of that, but the one thing that they have, and they have some new, well, maybe not new IPs, but some next generation IPs, is they got games, man. They got Miles Morales. Granted, it's on the PS4. Could someone say, well, technically it's not next generation? You absolutely could. You could 100% say that. But it is at least at the bare minimum. It's a brand new experience. You cannot say it's not that. It's a new experience. Somebody could say the same thing about Demon Souls, saying it's just a remake, but God dog, whoa, God dog, wait a minute. Man, alright, God darn. Did you guys see that 12-minute joint that showed the game off a little bit? Yeah, God dog. Whoa. Yeah, man, you can say that's a remaster. I get it, but golly, once again, I'm not buying it. I don't feel like the frustration, but I can sit back and I can say, good gosh, that game is gorgeous. That game looks real good. I mean, they have that. They got Godfall, even though Godfall is only a timed exclusive. I think the exclusivity is up sometime in May, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. That's a big what if I'm going off of memory, but I believe it's sometime in May that actually expires. So my point is they have new experiences there for the PlayStation 5. They have Astrobot, what is it, The Room or something like that, where it's showing off what the controller can do. And that comes with every PlayStation 5. I mean, they just have some things they're working with that Microsoft at the minute just does not. So hopefully they get that together. But since we're already talking about, now this is the last story, y'all. But since we're already comparing, these launch lineups with the critics have been saying about each console, interesting thing happened this week when it came to both of the consoles. Now, they actually did a head-to-head. I believe this was GameSpot. They did a head-to-head load times comparison between the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Now, this, I'm going to just read off the numbers to y'all. I ain't going to say nothing else. Now, it was 5 games they did. So, the first game they did was Red Dead Redemption 2, and that game used to take a lifetime to load. But here are the load times. So for PlayStation 5, it loaded in a minute 5.6 seconds. Over on the Series X, it loaded at a minute 0.455 seconds. So right there, we're talking about literally just a little over a second of a difference. That's really not much of anything to skulk at. I mean, we're talking about less than a second difference or so, somewhere around there. So that's no big deal. But then we move into Final Fantasy 15. The Series X, it clocked in at 48.06 seconds. And the PlayStation 5, oh, this is where a gap started. It took 1 minute, 10.29 seconds. So here we have, golly, 48, 58, 8. We have almost 21 seconds of a difference. Now, still, once again, nah, man, we're going to keep reading these numbers, man. Nah, let's just keep on going. That's impressive. You doggone 22-second difference on the Series X, but we got more here. We have Destiny 2. They tried that out. Now, on the PlayStation 5, it clocked in at 57.30 seconds. On the Series X, it clocked in at 42.53 seconds. Once again, a 15-second difference. It's faster. Here we have Monster Hunter was the next game they tried. Series X, 35.46 seconds. PlayStation 5, 51.37 seconds. Like a 9-second lead right there. Then the last game they tried is Batman Arkham Knight. PlayStation 5 clocked in at 1 minute and 7.27 seconds. And the Xbox Series X clocked in at 58.48 seconds. Once again, almost another 10-second difference. Now, people are going to say, well, Keon, wait a minute. You're talking about backwards compatibility comparisons. Backwards compatibility. Man, y'all gonna try to do a Allen Iverson on me. We're talking about backwards compatibility. This is what I say to that, man. This is my rebuttal. All we heard since we heard about this magical SSD in the PlayStation 5, since Mark Cerny got up on stage and they're talking about blistering fast, it's amazing, it's incredible speeds, the PC doesn't have it, nobody on the market has this kind of technology. That's all we heard over and over and over again, that the Xbox Series X was going to get smoked. It was going to be like Flash versus a turtle. It was going to get knocked completely out the box. And here we have the fastest SSD versus, I guess, the opinion of the people, the slowest SSD on the Xbox Series X. I'm not going to say the people. I'll just say certain people or individuals felt that way. And in every last one of those tests, there was one thing that was clear. The Xbox Series X beat the PlayStation 5 every time. How is that possible? Tell me something. How is the world's most fastest console getting knocked out the box like this by a Xbox Series X that does not have the same SSD that you have in your console? Now, whether or not, when we're talking about the actual next generational games, whether or not PlayStation is going to blow it out the water, hey man, I would hope so. I would hope. Just like people that have been on the train, well, not the train, that what Microsoft has been saying, that the Xbox Series X is the world's most powerful console. I would have to imagine that people want you to live up to that. And with certain games from last generation not being in native 4K, yeah, some question marks there. I don't know. That might have been answered a little bit because, like I said, Digital Foundry said it was tethered or something to the older games or the older hardware. So maybe, but that's still no excuse. None at all. All I'm saying is, hey, man, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting generation. Here we aren't even officially into it. And we're getting these kinds of numbers. It just makes, man, I tell you, I'm so excited about this upcoming generation because it looks like, at least at this moment, I can only talk about the moment that we're in. It looks like it is going to be a war. It's looking like Microsoft, they're gonna try me. Phil been saying some off the wall stuff. I don't know where Phil's going. I don't know. I want to hope that this console generation, it's a close race. Both of these guys are fighting hard for our hard-earned money, and just seeing these kinds of things, these kinds of numbers, it makes you look at the other side and say, uh-oh, oh, buddy, you better get on your square. So that's my only point. Each console, we know they're going to have their strengths, they're going to have their weaknesses, but I just love it for the competition factor. This is awesome. Anytime that Xbox was counted out so far in the back of what they would be able to do speed-wise versus the PlayStation 5, and to have these kinds of numbers, and granted, I know it's only 5 games. I get it. I'm not oblivious to the fact that it's thousands more out there. But these are the numbers that we have for the minute. So you gotta you don't have to, but you gotta tip your hat to Microsoft and say, wow, y'all actually came out on top. It's backwards compatibility. I understand that. But you came out on top convincingly with some of those titles. 20-something seconds of a difference, which is something I bet most people thought was going to be on the Xbox Series X's side. And here you have Microsoft coming out here with those numbers, man. That is incredible. Anyway, I ain't going to harp on it. That is the end of the gaming news this week, which leads us into God Dog. We are hour and 11 minutes in, man. I ain't even see the time. Man, we're deep in the trenches right now, ladies and gentlemen. But we are going to go ahead and get into the question of the week officially, because I know you saw it. You probably got a hint of it where I got the question from earlier on in the show when I was talking about Ori. But anyway, this is the question officially. Does native 4K matter? I would like to know, because right now, as far as I'm concerned, it sounds great. It sounds good when you hear that a game is native 4K. It makes you feel like I'm getting the real thing. This is authentic. I love it. It looks great. But does it really matter if a game is dynamic 4K? Because can our human eye, I'm going to tell y'all, man, I'm 41 years old, brother. I'm getting up there a little bit. My eyes, they still work. They definitely work fine, but I can't tell the difference when I'm looking at, don't get me wrong, 4K, when I'm looking at it in the store, I'm like, yeah, that does look better than what I have at home. But if you're talking about native 4K versus like a upscaled 4K, man, I ain't gonna be able to tell. But I want to get you guys' opinion on this. Does that matter to you? Does native 4K matter? For me, like I said, it sounds good. It sounds way better than dynamic, because it's not a true 4K. But man, when I think about it and I go back to that demo, that Unreal demo that they were showing, that was showing off the power of the PlayStation 5, God, dog. I didn't think about resolution once when I saw that demo. I said, all I knew when that demo was going on was, good grief, this is beautiful. This is absolutely stunning. My jaw is dropped on the floor right now. I don't give a care about what 4K is. 4K what? This game looks incredible. But others may feel differently. So that is the question this week. If you want to be a part of listener feedback, which I will be recording on Wednesday, you can be a part of that show by either calling in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you guys. Anyway, that is going to wrap it up for this week. And guys, I want to tell y'all, thank y'all so much. I mean this, all kidding aside, humbly, I truly thank you guys for supporting me, for rocking out with me, spreading the word on the Analog Circle Podcast. The numbers continue to grow, and it's greatly and sincerely appreciated. Thank you guys so much. So with that being said, guys, we're gonna wrap it up officially. But before we get out of here, always remember one thing. It is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until next week, by the way, shout out to the Ravens. We got a W today, a big one too. We played from behind and we won the game. God dog, shout out to my guys in purple. Anyway, we will be back at it again Wednesday. But until then, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.